I understand the blockchain is very advantageous in terms of speed and in terms of speeding up what can sometimes seem a somewhat Byzantine transaction. But there's definitely some hesitation from not just traditional forces that stand to benefit, but people in the commercial real estate and legal world that see that Byzantine transaction as a way to protect an asset. What kind of safeguards are in place with blockchain to prevent an asset from being stolen in the transaction?
That's a great question, Gordon. And that's really our core or our main focus, just because we come from the real estate business, right? Is that we need to first verify that it's your asset, that you are the owner of that real estate asset. Then we'll run a bunch of what they call public API calls, which is a fancy way to say that our platform looks on the internet, goes to public deed records. We'll run a simple title search through a real title company, through a lawyer, and we will verify that you own the asset, and we'll do that in a multi-layer authentication mode, meaning, sure, we can send you an SMS text message, we can send you an email. We want to have you physically at the property to geolocate you to make sure that you're there and that you own it. Then we'll go through things like KYC to just further go through a security audit process to make sure that you own the asset, that you're uploading all the relevant information to that asset. And then during the actual transaction, that both parties are verified in order to make that happen. Now, when it comes to, let's say, stealing a property or an asset, there are certain mechanisms that we've developed for our platform that will allow us to safeguard you. Now, in the world of the blockchain, if it's not your keys and you're not safeguarding your actual crypto assets, that's some gray area that would be put on the user essentially. So, there's a lot of bad press about FTX and how those people's funds were essentially stolen. Well, those were on an unsecure exchange where they just assumed or they trusted that exchange had one-to-one assets, and they didn't. And that's really a part of the educational process about the blockchain where, we're going to educate our consumers, our clients, to make sure that they have the right wallet set up, that their protocols are in place where they can protect those assets. Ian, would you like to interject?
Yeah, I would just like to add that safety and security obviously has to be the forefront topic when you're thinking about deploying a technology like this. And I think it sort of needs to be thought of in two ways. One, the things that we can control, and two, the things that we can't control. This is an emerging market. It's emerging technology. It's very early. There will be industry standards and protocols that develop that are guided by policy decision makers and political offices, right? So all that we can do is lead from a best practices perspective and try to imagine what those are and control the things like Mike talked about that we can control as a company behind a product. But there are, those risks of, being a part of an early market that is emerging. There are certainly some risks out there, basically around the safety and security of your own wallet if you hold your own keys. And if you don't hold your own keys and you keep your crypto and assets on a centralized exchange, then you're banking on the safety and security of that un-FDIC, centralized exchange. So we focus on the things that we can control, and that's all of the validity, validity and checks and balances around the data that we collect to provide our product to the consumers.
A change of pace from the get-rich-quick gurus. Subscribe to the Real Finds podcast for in-depth conversations with voices shaping the real estate world.